Star Wars is a franchise that has been around for as long as I can remember. Hell, some of my earliest memories of life involved watching the original trilogy on VHS, and Palpatine was the first thing from any form of media that genuinely terrified me. As a kid of the prequel generation, my family was able to give me the quote unquote Star Wars experience growing up. This meant having all sorts of merchandise from the movies toys, books, Legos, and of course, video games. The last one would have the biggest impact on my life, and while there are a number of great Star Wars games that I played during my childhood and adolescent years, none resonated with me quite like the original Battlefront II from 2005.
What?
No, I'm not misleading you, this video is still about the 2017 Battlefront 2 release, but we'll get there. Years after the original Battlefront 2 was released, I would continually pull out my PS2 from the shelf where it was collecting dust and fire up my favorite Star Wars game. There was so much to enjoy about that game. From the campaign, putting you in all the famous movie battles, the revamped galactic conquest, the cruiser-to-cruiser space combat, it was everything it needed to be. So when it was announced that EA and DICE were going to resurrect the franchise and release a new Battlefront game in 2015, I was ecstatic. I couldn't wait to see what an updated version of one of my favorite game titles would look like on the newer generation of consoles. But when it came down to it, I gotta admit, I was pretty disappointed with the 2015 release of Battlefront. Don't get me wrong, I still had fun playing the game and enjoyed it for what it was, but even after all the post-launch content was released, it still felt like a barren experience compared to the game that preceded it 10 years earlier. When a sequel to 2015's Battlefront was evidently announced, I had high hopes that EA and DICE would release a game that could stand up to its predecessor from 2005. When Battlefront 2 had its reveal panel at Star Wars Celebration in 2017, we were hearing all the right stuff. All eras were going to be included, most importantly the Clone Wars, they were bringing back the class system and retiring the battle pickups, but most importantly, there was not going to be a season pass that would split up the community when post-launch content was released. All of this news was refreshing after Battlefront 2015. However, the issue of loot crates began to overshadow everything great that was coming with the new game. I don't want to get too into that because the loot crate pay to win controversy has been covered extensively by numerous sources, but it's a good lesson on what not to do when trying to monetize a game. Even with the loot crate scandal, I was still excited for the game. I'm a sucker for Star Wars, and especially for what looked like a promising Battlefront game. Then, the beta was released, and I was pleasantly surprised with the revamped gameplay experience. The beta included Galactic Assault on Naboo, which was a refreshing take on the flagship game mode from Battlefront 2015's Walker Assault. I was already more invested in the beta gameplay than I had been at any point during the lifespan of its predecessor. From the classes, the battle point system, even the new dinging sound whenever you got a kill, every change was a welcome one. As much fun as I had playing the beta, and as much as I was looking forward to getting my hands on the full game, I knew that the overall success of the game would be bogged down by the pay-to-win loot crate scandal.
And 3, 2, 1.
I was having an absolute blast with the game after it released. Even though the putrid progression system was tied to how many loot crates you could buy, I still found it an enjoyable Star Wars gaming experience. However, I knew that the game still had a wealth of potential, and the entire loot crate controversy seemed to halt whatever timetable the development team had for post-launch content. This led the dev team to return to the drawing board and overhaul the entire progression system in the game. It seemed like an obvious fix. The more you play with a certain class, hero, etc., the more experience you earned with that respective unit to rank them up. But this idea was never in the cards because the entire progression system was tied to the monetization plan. Whether or not you think it was done out of the goodness of their hearts, I give the dev team a lot of credit for the new progression system that was implemented 5 months after the launch. Besides the actual work that needed to be done in-game, there were probably many discussions that took place with higher-ups to persuade them to change the monetization system that would continue to earn the company money. It was important that a new and fruitful monetization plan be presented, because that would be necessary to fund the future content. The change in the progression system was the first huge step in the right direction for Battlefront 2's resurgence. We were being rewarded for our actual gameplay. There was no longer a pay-to-win system, and there was so much more goodwill surrounding the game after the new system was implemented. My personal focus was directed towards the new content that they would be working on. Like I previously mentioned, the game had a ton of potential at this time, and it seemed like they were in the perfect position to take advantage of it. It seems so long ago now, but there was a time when the only prequel era heroes in the game were Yoda and Darth Maul. I guess Bosk could be considered a prequel hero as well, but because he was featured in 2015's Battlefront, which was infamously original trilogy exclusive, I consider him to be part of that era in the context of these games. It felt like there was a huge demand for Clone Wars related content, and I was definitely in that camp. Our wish was granted when it was announced at E3 2018 that there would be a focus on Clone Wars content coming to Battlefront 2. Obi-Wan, Anakin, Grievous, and Dooku were being introduced into the game. Geonosis was going to be added as a galactic assault map, and they were implementing a squad system reminiscent of the Battlefield titles. This was the kind of content I had been waiting for since 2015 Battlefront was announced. The Clone Wars is my favorite time period in Star Wars, and it finally felt like we were getting the hero representation to match the immersive prequel era worlds that DICE has always been so great at creating. The final step that solidified Battlefront 2 in my regular gaming arsenal was the inclusion of capital supremacy. This was a new take on the conquest style mode that was popular in the original Battlefront games and in DICE's Battlefield titles. The tug-of-war nature of the battle of attacking or defending cruisers after epic ground battles became the new flagship game mode for Battlefront 2 that provided a new spin on familiar game mechanics from the past. For me, introducing and tweaking capital supremacy to be the best possible game mode it could be was the final huge leap in making Battlefront 2 a game that could last for years. After one of the most lackluster launches, Battlefront 2 made a strong comeback. The potential was evident, and I'm happy that it lived up to most of it, despite the early controversy. Is it the perfect game, in my opinion? No. There are some aspects that I enjoyed in the 2005 version of Battlefront that are not part of this game. I missed the cruiser-to-cruiser space combat, multi-person vehicle play, and I thought the campaign was far more engaging at that time. You may notice that I haven't said anything about the single-player campaign in Battlefront 2. While I give them credit for including it after completely disregarding one in the 2015 game, it wasn't one of the standout experiences for me. It was fun to play in the first day or so I had the game, but ultimately, it felt like we were being sold something completely different when they were saying that it was going to be a story from the Empire's perspective. I could go in more detail about the things I wish the newer game included, but they are minuscule complaints compared to the things that can be enjoyed in this game. And that's what I take away the most when thinking about 2017's Battlefront 2. There is so much to enjoy about the game, and I believe that Battlefront 2 is in its best state. Even today, over 2.5 years after its launch, I'm finding new things that I enjoy doing in the game. Whether it's a hero starfighter, new reinforcements, and heroes they introduced for the sequel trilogy era, BB-8 and BB-9E are completely broken but some of my favorite heroes to play, or returning to game modes like Ewok Hunter Strike, I'm continually finding new things that I enjoy about this game, and it keeps me coming back with renewed enthusiasm. That's the beauty of the game. No matter what it is you love about Star Wars, you can find some way to live out a version of your fantasy adventure in Battlefront 2. If you want to be a hero leading the way for your armies, engage in ship dogfights as you fly around enemy cruisers, or embrace the boots on the ground gameplay and dominate with your squad, Battlefront 2 provides you with all of these opportunities. If you've gotten to this point in the video, I appreciate it. This is my first real stab at YouTube content, so I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, consider following my Twitch channel. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we play a whole lot of Battlefront 2. Thank you for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe to catch more videos like this one. I have a bunch of video ideas that I'm working on, so I hope you'll consider being part of this journey with me. If I don't catch you on stream, I'll catch you all here next time.